everything you say and do. It's all part of a deception. It's a puppet master's tool. And I've seen those craft shut down the silos from 10 miles away. And there ain't nothing that the Pentagon can do. They can't make them go away.
From Malmstrom to Manhattan, Boston to LA, there are people asking questions and they will not go away. But what has been seen might not be what it seems. The government's shadows dance and deceive.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, and thank you. Do you have a paranormal story you want to share on Night Dreams Talk Radio? You could be a guest. Email us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
That is me, and I'll tell you, that weather, that thunder and stuff, is supposed to be happening here at the compound tomorrow. I tell you what, this summer really was messed up here down at the compound. Anyway, we got Tim on and we got James on. Hey, Tim, I want to talk to you about UFOs and stuff like that. And then I want to ask you about this puppet thing.
Absolutely. Ask away.
Well, let's start off with the UFOs, because that's a hot subject right now. I'll tell you, that is the hottest. You know, UFOs died off for quite a few years. I've been doing talk radio since 1976. Probably longer than you've been walking around, pretty much. And I tell you.
You got that right.
Yeah, and you know, the UFOs was really popular around the mid-'80s, and then the mid-'90s it started dying off a little bit. Now it's back bigger than ever. But what type of encounter did you have?
So, my odd sort of UFO alien abduction experience, I've had a couple odd things happen to me over the course of the ages. Quite frankly, I am a subscriber to the idea that sleep paralysis, there's two broad theories out there. One is that it's the moment by a demon, and the other is it's the moment you're being visited to be whisked away by aliens. I'm more a prescriber of that second option, mainly due to the fact that North and South Carolina is an absolute hotbed of UFO activity. The most widely reported UFO sighting, to my understanding, is 3 glowing balls of orange light in a triangle formation. In fact, the most recently documented is by the Charlotte Observer. A story was done about it in last year, I believe it was January or February, where multiple families in Indian Land, which is no more than 15, 20 minutes from where I live, were seeing this exact same thing over the course of multiple nights. Now, I also had and this is, I believe, the first time I've ever spoken publicly about this experience. When I was around probably 7 or 8 years old, and this is incredibly stereotypical, but this is the only concrete UFO sighting I'll say I've ever had. This was actually in broad daylight, out in my parents' backyard, looking, I don't know what direction it would have been, but it was literally, and I can see this image to this day. It was the literal spitting image of the upside-down silver plate from the 1950s B horror movies, simply levitating in the sky. I'm not a good judge of distance, but it's sizable enough to make out the shape and all that sort of thing. It's not very high up. Simply hovered there for as long as I would watch it, and eventually it just scared me enough where I went inside. I didn't see it go away. But that was sort of my first introduction into seeing that sort of thing. Believe it's 2 sleep process experiences. One I didn't mention because it wasn't quite severe enough. But even Lisa, who I mentioned previously a couple minutes ago, believes that I have definitely had a visitation before.
Well, it sounds like it. I've had so many guests on that, have claimed that they've been abducted. One of them is Timothy Cullen, which he was like the number nine person to have his implant removed by the late Dr. Roger Lear. And I seen a picture of the implant, and when it was sent out to be analyzed, it was the compound. Yeah, it had metals on it. It could have been from Earth, but the silver that was into it, the way it was compounded, there was no way it could have been formulated on Earth. And we had Calvin Parker on, who's been abducted. So there is abductions going on, and I tell you, being abducted, I think does. Once you've been abducted, you never are going to forget about it. And I'm willing to bet you, sometimes when you go to bed at night, I bet it's in your mind, am I going to be abducted again?
Oh, it definitely is. Lisa always jokes with me and asks when my friends are going to visit next. I think when you've had sleep paralysis experiences, no matter which version you subscribe to, if it's demons or if it's natural body dreaming motions or if it's alien visitations, I think that when you experience something like that, especially multiple times, you're always waiting for the next time it's going to happen. I will readily admit that I saw the shadow figure that the one time that I mentioned previously, but I've yet to see a physical entity as of yet. To sort of expound on this, Lisa, again, who I've mentioned, claims that she's been abducted as well. She's had sleep paralysis episodes. And oddly enough, and Greg and James, you guys might have heard something similar before. I've never heard anything like this. What Lisa described to me is she's in her 50s. When she was around 4 or 5 years old, she grew up in Kannapolis, North Carolina. It's fairly close to Concord. She was in bed with her grandparents. Their bed was up against the bedroom wall, so there's really only one entry-exit point out of the bed off the, I presume it would be the left-hand side, maybe. Anyway, she remembers waking up. Her grandparents are dead asleep. She sits up, and she has the feeling that something's walking into the bedroom. It's one of those senses, and we've all had it, where somebody's approaching, but they're not in the room quite yet. She sits up and she looks at the doorway. When she looks, she can see a soft, what she said, glowing white light coming into the room. And what enters, quite frankly, she describes, looks like the Sunday school version of Jesus. The painting, the Jared Leto-looking, doe-eyed Jesus, Sunday school Jesus. He simply walks into the room, looks at Lisa, they lock eyes, then he, just as simply as he came in, turns around, walked back out of the room, and disappeared. Lisa said nothing to her grandparents. She just went back to bed. Lisa grew up going to church, so it was very odd for her, but she didn't quite know how to process it at that age. But Lisa has had additional sleep paralysis experience. She wasn't paralyzed in that occurrence, but she had it happen one time, again, and the third occurred fairly recently. And she said when she woke up, she could feel that she was still able to move a little bit. And she yelled out, "Just leave me alone," and it was over. She claims that she has not been bothered with these feelings or sleep paralysis episodes ever since she acted out like that, yelling out, "Leave me alone," when she felt it oncoming. So I don't know. It's been a good 7-8 years since I've had a sleep paralysis experience. But you're right. There is still a lingering feeling nightly of, is it going to happen? And if it does, I sincerely hope it's not scary.
Yeah.
I'm totally cool with being friendly. I just don't want it to be scary. Some people consider it a badge of honor. Some people don't want it. I consider it neither way. I'm going, if this is serving some greater purpose, fine. I just don't want it to scare me. But unfortunately, I don't think they're listening, because both times I've had sleep paralysis, it scared me.
Well, you know what they do, Tim, and by the way, my name is Gary. What they do when they abduct you, there's loss of time, too. And I hear that repeatedly, you know, time after time after time with the guests I've had on that been abducted. And a lot of them think, oh, you know, I'm just, you know, in my bed having this nightmare or a dream. But, you know, it's they're being abducted. And, you know, again, you know, when you're laying there, 1 minute could be an hour. You really don't know. James, how do you feel about it?
Absolutely. I think also some people have missing time and might not even realize it. You know, another thing that me and you've touched on, Gary, is how these aliens can put in our minds visions that they want us to see. And I'm wondering, he mentioned about Lisa there seeing what
Jesus.
looked like Jesus. Jesus coming in. Wonder if the aliens put that vision in her mind to ease her mind, because they know what she thinks can see that, you know, makes her calm or at ease.
No, the same way we had that game warden on the show, you know, that he saw the Greys walking in, you know, through his window, you know, in the bedroom. And then, you know, he felt being, you know, lifted up off the bed. But then, you know, all of a sudden, while he's doing his job, the next day he starts seeing owls everywhere, to the point he writes a book about owls. And then when I interviewed him, and we were talking about his abduction, you know, he's a game warden. Okay, he might have been infatuated with owls. They abducted him. They scanned his brain, found out what type of things that, you know, is of interest to him. Hey, that's why he sees owls now. And when he sees owls, it could be aliens. In this case, your friend Lisa going to church and stuff, she sees that something comes in their room. They immediately put on a shapeshift like Jesus to make her feel comfortable. And maybe her only like coming in and going out could have been a matter of minutes or an hour. Who knows?
Yeah.
No, you're definitely right. And to add a sort of weird layer on top of it, while all of these sleep process episodes are occurring, all this sort of thing, Lisa had moved into a new house, and by new house, it's new to her. The house was built in the 70s. When she moved in, she felt that something was off, but couldn't quite place her finger on it, as most people, when they come into these situations, do. She eventually realized that whatever it was, and this could have been spirit realm, this could have been more extraterrestrial based. I'm going to leave this to your guys' interpretation to see if you guys can crack the code. She realizes that there is something going on in the house. She at the time, her two daughters were younger. She's at home by herself, and all of a sudden hears a little girl's laugh from inside the house. Of course, she realizes both her daughters are not at home. She looks around, can't find anybody. She keeps it to herself. A couple of years later, her husband, off the cuff, says, "There's something in this house with us." And Lisa acts like she doesn't know what's being said because she wants to see what he says. He says, "It's whatever it is, it's a little girl, and I know it's here because I was laying in bed, and it walked up to the edge of the bed and talked to me." So, of course, Lisa is petrified at this. What she did was went around the different rooms and did the traditional spiritual cleansing of burning the sage and all that sort of thing. And she says it left. But the interesting coincidence that all of this spiritual thing happened in the house around the same time where the sleep paralysis picked up, and she did the yelling out to leave me alone. So I don't know if the two are connected, if it's really bad luck, but it's an interesting wrench to kind of throw in the cogs there to kind of consider.
James, what do you have to say on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you this much through my experiences. Little children, and especially little girls, that is usually something evil that mimics it. And here's the thing, aliens could do the same thing.